Good morning. Welcome to the Monday MLK Day edition of the NBA Betting Show. With me, as always, Mike Lockey, Matt Meiselman. We've got some games starting early today, so we're going to be getting into some opportunities that are on the board for today. Matt, I think you want to do a quick recap of some stuff you put out on Twitter since we didn't have a show.
Yep.
What was important from yesterday, and how'd it go?
Yeah, yesterday, and I'll just like briefly give the overview of these games. It was a day of a lot of half unit bets or partial bets. We had like 2 point edges on, I think, most of the games. And then news didn't really break our way, and the results didn't really break our way either. So I kind of hope that people didn't really bet much yesterday. Personally, I went like 1-4 or something like that. But we had the Bulls started with a win. We had projected line around like 3 or 3.5. They were +6. So that was a win. But then we were showing Brooklyn as a bet, and then Ben Simmons got ruled out like right before the game. So like I wasn't able to hedge it. It made it basically pretty good bet down to like a neutral bet, and they just lost. Maybe at the end of the show, we'll talk about OKC futures because this is a team that is actually threatening for a play-in spot right now.
Yes.
They have won 3 games in a row, including road wins at Brooklyn, at Philly, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was.
They'd have a ton of really impressive wins.
And they beat Boston at home before that.
Yeah.
It's been pretty wild. They beat the Bulls on the road. The last 3 games they've played were at Brooklyn, at Chicago, at Philly, and they've won all of them. So, yeah, the Thunder have been. I think we've been against them. I think we were against them in all of those. So, yeah, that's been pretty annoying. Um, and then the one game we did have them recently, they got blown out at home by the Sixers when SGA was in and Harden was out. So, yeah, we're going to talk OKC futures soon, but they've been a pretty annoying team this year. There was some value on Denver yesterday at -10. The line closed at like 11, and then they won by 3 on a Jokic game winner. The new MVP favorite, Nikola Jokic, at like every sports book because Luka, the last 2 games, was out and had a bad game. Jokic just continues to be amazing every time he plays. So it looks like Jokic is now actually slightly ahead of Doncic, at least in terms of odds. I don't know who. I think it's pretty close between them, but Jokic, odds-on favorite right now. And then the last 2 games of the day were the ones we had really confusing news. The Luka updates throughout the day were really hard to read, I think, because, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have games starting in like 2 hours, but Luka getting listed questionable yesterday in the middle of the day on a potential rest day was unusual. And I don't think he actually rested yesterday. I think his ankle is legitimately bothering him. Like they wanted him to play yesterday, but ankle soreness is, I guess it's been a lingering issue for him. So we basically were looking at enormous Dallas value if Doncic played, and he ended up not playing. So anyone who bet the Blazers super early got like a 1 unit bet in terms of value. Like I think at tip off we had a projected line 9.5. And the line had moved from 6 up to 9.5. But if Luka had played, the projected line was going to be 3.5, and then it would have been a massive edge. So Luka ended up not playing, and then Dallas got blown out by Portland again. This game was actually close going to the fourth quarter, and then yeah, it went from 3 up to 17. So it wasn't an ideal game for Luka's MVP case because the Mavericks are falling in the standings now. Like Denver being ahead is a big deal for that, but. That game should have been a no bet for most people. Like if you were waiting for Doncic and then he got ruled out, at that point the line was already high enough where you wouldn't have had anything. So if you bet Portland early, then sure, that was good, but later there was just nothing.
I did something I don't ordinarily do,
Yeah.
and I don't want to spend too much time on it,
Okay.
but I had saw a tweet from you, something about Embiid likely sitting and Jokic, not Jokic, Doncic also, the range of outcomes for these guys. I saw a Portland -6 line, and I bought it down to 5.5. And I think the reason I did that was because I thought it was a risky bet because if Luka played, I wasn't going to love it, right? So it only cost me -120, so I paid 10 extra cents. Maybe this is a mistake, but
Yeah,
when I was
don't do
planting,
that. You shouldn't be doing that.
okay,
It's too much juice to pay for that. I understand the principle, like you want to guard yourself so you can hedge back later, right? You're trying to get yourself a lower
Yeah,
number.
that was a little bit of it.
But minus 120 is more than you should be paying for half a point in any context. Like if it was minus 112 to buy the half point, then I would have said like that's fine. That's that's probably even plus EV to do that. But remember, you can also hedge an alternate line later. Like if you bet -6 at minus 110, and then the line moves to 4.5, you can bet +6 at minus 130 or something. Like you're able to hedge no matter what.
I forgot to do that because
Yeah.
when the 76ers news came in that Harden was playing, I didn't really have time to start, moving lines or whatever. So I just
Yeah.
had to get what I could. And that ended up being a loser anyways. But
Yeah, that Sixers game was tough too because we ended up with a really good Philly bet. If anyone like timed that news, because I think the
I did.
market was pricing Harden. I actually think so. I probably didn't line up this tweet properly when the line. I was expecting Embiid to rest today, and then we got an update that Harden was questionable, but Embiid was not on the injury report, and the
Yeah.
line didn't adjust for that. And I think what happened is the market was pricing in some chance of rest somewhere on the back-to-back,
Right.
and then Harden being questionable was just like a neutral result. So maybe like the market expected Embiid like 50-50 to play, and then instead Harden was 50-50 to play, and that just transferred over. Like they're worth about the same. Embiid is better than Harden, but the Sixers have better front court backups than they do backcourt backups. Like Shake Milton
Right.
is not as good as Montrezl Harrell, but Harden was questionable, and so the line didn't move. But then when Harden wound up playing, the line went from -3 to -6, and I think there were numbers. I got a -2 on Philly right after we found out Harden was downgraded. I got a -2 on Philly, and then the game closed at 6, and they only won by 1. This is probably a game where most people didn't get any action in, though, because
I had an
the
early
news was
Lakers
just
bet.
changing so much.
Yeah, I had an early Lakers bet trying to
Yeah.
get in ahead in case I missed the news. And then I did react with a larger 76ers bet that ended up being a loser, but it wasn't. I ended up being a net winner in NBA yesterday, which is very small.
Yeah, well, you got Portland.
Lucky run out.
You got Portland early, which honestly, like, there was nothing wrong with that.
You had me doubting myself for a few minutes. And,
Well-
and when we looked at the numbers, I didn't love the way I played it, if I'm being honest.
But at the time, Portland -6 was a good bet. If Doncic and Hardaway were both out, it was going to be a good bet. And then that's what happened. So you had a significant amount of downside with your bet, but ultimately it was a good bet. And we also didn't know, like, I had some worry that Dame wasn't going to play. So there were a lot
that's
of
part
ways
it
for your
also.
bet to like wind up being wrong, but like the way the news broke, it wound up like that was the right bet. So
I agree.
And
yeah.
that Sixers game was a surprise. Even like I read some of the Philly Philly articles, and it was a surprise that everybody played in the second night of a back-to-back. So I don't know if they're looking at the standings or it's I tried not to put any thought into what Doc Rivers is thinking, but looking at the standings now, I mean it's very bunched up. You got Nets at 15 losses, Bucks 16, Sixers 16, Cavs 17 losses. That 2 through 5 area, and then Knicks even 19 losses, just a few behind. Again, I'm leaving.
There's
Boston.
a lot of parity in the league this year. I've talked about this a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, just I don't know if that's something to keep an eye on. If the Sixers are going to play their guys more in these back-to-backs,
Right,
but,
maybe.
at least they did do that. All right.
Yeah,
So
I just
we
thought
had-
DeAndre. I mean, I'm going to get to this DeAndre Jordan thing because there's a question from YouTube about it from our friend Barack who wanted to know
go
what's
ahead.
going on. But quickly on Embiid, he's dealing with a foot injury. Like he said, his ankle or foot was sore. So like I thought that was enough, but maybe not. Maybe he's just feeling okay. Yeah, this Denver game. When DeAndre Jordan plays, we have a problem. And unfortunately, DeAndre Jordan burned us 2 games in a row because he was so good in the Clipper game that we didn't win the Clipper bet when Jokic was out. And then I think because of him playing well in that game, they gave him minutes in the next game, which we had a Denver bet in, and he ruined it. Because he went
minus 13.
minus 13 in 13 minutes, yeah.
Now, do you do anything, Matt, where if you see him getting time, are you doing any additional live bets going against Denver?
I wasn't home for this, so I might have if I saw it. But yeah, I think the best case, if you've bet Denver, maybe this is like the thing to lay out for people who are being super attentive with this team. And then we will get to today because I feel like news is going to start breaking soon. This is the last thing from yesterday that I want to mention because I think it is an important point. If you've bet on the Nuggets with Jokic in and they are up like 15 or whatever, like really early, like they're doing well with Jokic on the court. And then DeAndre Jordan comes to the scorer's table. Unless we've had a massive edge on Denver, like that is the point to like get yourself a middle for some amount because DeAndre is probably going to ruin the game. And especially in a case where we had him projected not to play and then he's playing, the team rating would be worse if we knew that. So I think that's when you do it, is when you can open up a middle. Like if Denver is down 4 points in the Jokic minutes, I wouldn't like you're now going to get like the opposite of a middle if you do that.
Yeah, it's
like,
going to be a gigantic crater.
Right. You don't want Denver -10 and Orlando +6 at the same time. Because
this is such a big impact.
Yeah.
We can talk about this later. We don't need to decide this now, but I'm going to throw out a thought for us to talk about off air is there a way to put on the value sheet what the DeAndre Jordan projected minutes is? Because like if he projected
we can always just go to the Denver tab and look at it.
This is so frustrating because in the game Jokic literally was out, Denver won by 11. Like, okay, but I think in general I do agree. Like he is the most negative player in the NBA, and especially relative to the guy who plays in front of him.
Right. So
yeah.
Okay.
But I think the reason, I don't think it had to do with the rotation for that specific game. I think the reason he played minutes is because of what he did the game before.
Played well the game before.
Yeah, yep. I think that's why he got minutes. Yeah. So maybe I could have been ahead of that, but I don't know. He's so bad most of the time. Yeah, let's not talk about him anymore.
Yeah, let's jump to today since we've got a lot of potential, and then we expect to even potentially have some news here while we're chatting. So you want to start with Atlanta? There's still value there that we want to just make sure if anybody hasn't already gotten it from your tweet that give them the heads up.
Yeah, so I like this at +1.5. We got the upgrade on Clint Capella. I still have him listed as questionable. He didn't formally get upgraded to probable, but we got a report like 45 minutes ago he intends to play today. He is projected on a minutes limit already. I already have that accounted for. The number's like 23 minutes or something, which is probably about 5 or 6 less than he would play at full strength. So that's already kind of priced in. And then we potentially have a little bit of extra value if Caleb Martin gets rolled out for the Heat. He's their one questionable player. And the Miami situation, like Martin has a negative player rating, but there's some compounding going on there because Kyle Lowry is already out. So that brings in like Haywood Highsmith into the rotation. And normally if it was just Martin out and no one else, that would bring Oladipo into the rotation. But Oladipo is already playing Lowry's minutes, so now if Martin is out, that brings in Highsmith, who has a pretty bad rating. So Martin is worth like half a point to a point. This bet could actually get even better. We don't have any Atlanta news except that Capella is, he's basically probable now. So at +1, which I think is all that is out there, it's like a 3-ish point edge. I think there are +100 money lines, though, and that... We've talked about this a lot, like, should you just take the money line or the points when you're in this range? +1 on the spread is roughly equivalent to -105 on the money line. So if you can get +100, that is actually a better bet than, like, you're going to make more money in the long run betting even money on the money line +100 compared to +1 on the spread at -110. So +100 money line is actually what I'm recommending here. I think it's like a 3/4 unit to 1 unit bet there, because it's only a 2.2 edge, but there's no vig. It's a different calculation. So two or so points without a vig is like equal to 3 or so points with a vig. So you can kind of do either one. I personally have +1.5 and +100. I have some of each. But there are no more +1.5s left, so I would just go +100 on the money line.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which game you want to talk about next?
Okay.
We're waiting on news before there's something definitive.
Let's go in order because the earlier games are more likely to get the news quicker. Boston, Charlotte, we don't have anything. That's the first game, so that's good. Like, we're not going to get... unless there's a surprise update from someone here... we don't have anything we're expecting for Boston and Charlotte. So we'll skip over that. Indiana looks pretty good if Miles Turner is back. So he has been out for, I think, 3 games now. And I don't have a great indication on if he'll play, but Turner's pretty important.
Yep.
So I think the market is pricing him out already. And I don't really have a strong lean on whether he'll play or not, but if he's in, we have, I don't think there are any plus 10s. Let's check for that. Here we go. Do we have FanDuel is plus 10, but it's at minus 114 or whatever. So that's pretty similar to just getting 9.5. 9.5 minus 110 plus 10 minus 114. Those are like roughly the same bet. So yeah, I think it's like a half unit bet if Turner plays, basically. I'm just checking specifically what we have for FanDuel.
Yeah, Pacers are not. I mean, Bet Rivers is 9.5.
Okay. Yeah, minus 114. I mean, you can take either one. Like, those are the same. But we have it projected like 7.5. So not a bad bet if Turner plays. And then...
Yeah, for what it's worth, Bet Rivers says plus 9.5 at minus 109.
Slightly better. Yeah. If you have the choice, just go there and save your 1 cent. Yeah. It adds up in the long run.
Absolutely.
Total wise, I don't know where we're at here because Turner has a really big impact on the over under, but I think they've been pricing these at midpoints for him where like the total would be 231 if he's in and like 235 if he's out. And given what we've said about total points, how like a point to the total is not as important as a point to the spread, 1 or 2 point edge in either direction, like I don't think I'm betting that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the total for Turner is if he goes from like fully in to out, like he's randomly scratched, or we get him like from out to in. But to go from like
Milwaukee's a team that I struggle to bet unders on.
Okay.
And maybe this is from a couple years ago, but I just remember like Giannis's efficiency with like dinking out the 3-point shots. I just feel like this team has just been like really solid and like. I mean, Middleton's probably still out, so I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but
yeah, I mean, it shouldn't matter. Like the market knows what you know. In this case, right? Like we know what the Bucks' pace and efficiency stats are. It's more just like Turner's price for a game time decision, so the line is set at a place where it's not going to move too much. Yeah.
Yep.
The Bucks are like when the Bucks have players in or out, it is quirky because you take Giannis out, and sometimes the games end up being wildly high scoring because their defense drops off so much. I think they are kind of unpredictable in that way. There was a game last year where the Bucks rested all their starters, and then the total points for the game was like 275 because they were playing the Clippers and Robert Covington had like 45 points or something. They just had no defense. So this is not that.
275? I don't believe that was the total.
No, that it ended with that many points. Not that the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I had like an under 232 bet, and it closed at like 218. Like it moved 14 points because both teams rested all their players, and then the Clippers scored like 150 by themselves. Yeah. So yeah, okay. That's just anecdote we don't need. Let's go on to
New Orleans, Cleveland, the Herb Jones impact game.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, if he plays, we have a bit of value. I don't think. I'm just checking here. We don't have any true 7.5s on the board. These are all 7s. The MGM 7.5 is minus 115. So kind of the same bet. But yeah, if he's in, we have a little bit of value. So I think Herb Jones has actually been out for quite a while. Like this questionable tag may be an upgrade for him. So maybe that indicates he's actually closer to playing. We still don't have Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson, but this would be because of like compounding of those players. Herb Jones playing it's more impactful than it would have been when they were at full strength. So like he's worth 0 usually because they have guys who are behind him who are just as good.
Question for you on this one: Are you waiting on in-out news? Or are you also waiting on something about minutes? Because sometimes when these guys have been out for a while,
yeah,
they get announced in, and then 10 minutes later, then you'll hear he's on a 15-minute minutes restriction.
Right.
So not get the same impact that you were hoping. Because we're pretty thin here. It's fine if he plays, but if he's on a minutes restriction, you thinking anything different, or
Yeah.
you just have to make noise in the rotation?
Yeah, because if he is playing 20 minutes compared to 30, that's like 10 extra minutes of Jackson Hayes, which is a huge difference, or whoever. Like there can be, it's either Hayes or Kira Lewis, or that's really it. Like if they give Larry Nance his minutes, he's just as good anyway. So I think in this case, I'd probably just take it if he's in, because I like Herb Jones is a young player. I don't think they just have him play 18 minutes because he's not like, I think if he's good to go, he's good to go. They're not going to be like super careful with him. Like if they had to be, they would just hold him out.
He's an expendable piece. Let's be honest. Like,
I guess
he doesn't
so.
have a big salary. He's probably on a rookie deal still. He's just a soldier.
Yeah, he's a really good defender,
I
but
agree.
his offense is pretty weak. So yeah, overall he's like, I mean, yeah, I don't think they care. I don't think it's that though. I think he's a young player where his conditioning won't be the problem.
Right. All right. Well, then
And
let's keep that one simple. If you get Herb Jones nose in and you can get this line, then this is a solid half unit, or are you going any higher than that?
I think because it's +7, not 7.5. I'm just doing half unit here. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Toronto versus the Knicks.
Yeah. Yeah, this is weird because we have a pretty big line disparity right now. I haven't seen this in a while. Like, it's almost an arbitrage. Right now we have, at FanDuel, the Raptors are -2, and at Caesars, they're 3.5. And it's been that for like an hour.
FanDuel is proud of being off market sometimes.
But Caesars is more off market here. I think, yeah, FanDuel does do that on occasion, but like the market's 2.5. So FanDuel being a 2 is only a half point off. Caesars is at 3.5. There aren't even any 3s around. Like that's the weird one. I don't think I've seen that in a while. Like you can bet.
It's been a while that 2 books for an hour have been a 1.5 off. I agree.
I mean, we literally have arbitrage on this game right now. Like you can bet Knicks -3.5 at +112. And you can bet Raptors +3.5 at -110. Like it's just
Decent arbitrage.
Yeah, and on the money line, let me see if we can like. This has definitely not happened this season, where we're just showing arbitrage for like. I think Caesars may have just moved this. Maybe they're. Yeah. All right.
Fans of the show.
Did this just change on screen in real time, or? So the way the unabated odds screen works is the bright yellow means it just changed, and the more faint it gets, it means like it's been some time. So that Caesars Raptors Knicks line looks like it's like a faint yellow, like it just changed in a minute or so. Like it probably changed a minute ago. That's unfortunate. I mean, it wasn't a lot of arbitrage. We would have literally been betting +112 and -110. Or on the money line, it would have been -130 and +133 or something like that. So we could have just stolen a few cents, but okay. Anyway.
Well, we would just be helping make the markets for both of those sites, and they would be paying us a small fee for doing so.
Sure. Yeah, that is definitely a way to look at it, and also not inaccurate. Like, it's kind of true.
Matt, you are 100% a market maker. There's no absolute doubt about that.
I don't want credit for that. I don't want them to know that I can. Okay.
That's a different story. But.
Yeah.
All right. So
I don't want that authority to be known.
Yeah, the value sheet's updated and shows Toronto with the best line at +2.5. So it looks like no bet there.
Yeah. Well, right? the Knicks are a bet if Van Vliet gets rolled out.
For sure.
That's really what we have here. Yeah. And Van Vliet has been in and out of the lineup with this lower back issue for like 2 weeks now. And we are definitely getting to the point where the Raptors could go into like fire sale mode.
Blow it all up. I see it coming for sure.
There was a massive loss that they just had where they were getting the Hawks on the second leg of a back-to-back on Saturday. And that was the game we thought Trae Young might rest. And Trae played, Bogdanovich didn't play. But the Hawks went into Toronto and won that game. And now the Raptors are, I'm just checking over here where they are in the standings. They're 19 and 24.
Yeah.
They're below the play-in right now,
they're
right?
one spot. Yeah, they're one spot out of the play-in as of right now. A half game behind Chicago.
So they're not giving up yet, I don't think. But like a loss to the Knicks today is a pretty big deal. It's like a week into February, like the 7th
Okay.
or the 9th or something like
February,
that.
I think it's February 6th.
Okay.
So that's only 3 weeks away. That's like really creeping up right now. So, there's going to be some opportunities for futures markets responding to trade options. There's going to be some stuff we're going to need to talk about coming up, I think.
Yeah,
There's
for sure.
More Wembanyama clips from over the weekend. He had 3 threes in a row in one of his games. So just in case anybody forgot who he was, he's still around.
Yeah, the OKC front office is probably like, guys, what are we doing?
Exactly.
Like, can we stop winning? The Thunder.
Look,
the Thunder have a better record than
this guy.
What's that?
I want him to play for Orlando. I want to watch this guy play.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, they almost beat Denver on the road last night. Like, these teams have to, yeah. But the Thunder have a better record than the Raptors right now, which is crazy halfway through the season. So
Yes.
yeah, I don't think we're looking at a Raptors fire sale right now, but I do think the fact that they are falling back of the playoff race does potentially have an impact on how much Fred VanVleet wants to push through pain. Like, he might be less inclined to do it because of where they are right now. You can
argue the other way.
You can argue the other way too,
because they want to try to win because they're losing. Right? I don't know.
Yeah. So
I think
it could be either.
We mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago. There's also some real incentive for whoever is going to be sellers to get in first. Yeah. So it may not be trade that deadline day. It may be. I'm not saying it's going to be Toronto, but everybody is eyeing those Lakers first round picks, 27 and 29, or 25 and 27. There's 2 picks that the Lakers have that somebody's going to get because the Lakers are going to do something, most likely. So, the waited out till trade deadline day, whoever the sellers are, I think somebody's going to make that offer to try to get probably one or both of those picks out. They might have to take Westbrook along with the deal, but
there's no way the Raptors are taking Westbrook with a couple picks for Fred VanVleet, though. He is way too good. Not this, but other teams, right? Bojan Bogdanovic makes more sense. Like, not Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Detroit, you don't want Bogdanovic on your team. He's going to cost you. He's going to get you a couple wins, which you don't want.
Not as many as Alec Burks, but he is an above-average player for their rotation. Like, I don't think he's good, but he's better than their backups besides Burks.
Now, they're likely to just throw him in a trade to make sure he doesn't get the minutes. So
right.
But more Isaiah Stewart threes. So good for everyone. All right, moving on to our next game.
Okay. So yeah, just to simplify this one, if VanVleet is out, we like the Knicks, and if you can get that -2 at FanDuel, that's the best number right now. Yeah. I'm not betting it yet, though. I want to wait. That's what I wanted to clarify. Like, I'm not making a strong prediction on if he's in or out. We just try to time it.
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Wizards against Dubs. What are you thinking?
Gut feeling is Bradley Beal doesn't play. He's listed questionable. He hasn't played. So Beal came back from I think it's a hamstring issue that he's been dealing with like the whole year. And he came back and re-aggravated it. So Beal was out from December 4th to December 18th. And then he came back and played a few games. And then on January 3rd, he got hurt again. And he hasn't played since then. So they've been like having him practice. He's been ramping up. And he was upgraded to questionable yesterday. I guess there's a chance he plays, but my hunch is we're not going to see him yet. I think he's another game or two away. And this is like it's not really pain tolerance. They're more worried about re-aggravation, which I think in those cases you want to be more cautious. So that's kind of why I'm saying this. Like, it's not, does he feel well enough to be able to go, like, give it a shot? Is his body in the condition where he's not going to just keep getting hurt? And in that situation, a team is probably not going to push him as hard. But if he is in, we have Wizards bets. Yeah.
Got it. All right. And if he's out, there's no bet at all, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of like props and stuff, I don't think, well, one, I'm not sure if they're posted, but they're going to be set at a point where there's like some expectation for him to, even if they show up, like Kuzma's points prop is going to be at a middle of where it would be if Beal were in or out. Like, I don't think we're going to really have value from Beal. Unless you see like a Will Barton prop, which is like, or a Jordan Goodwin, like one of these backup guards that only plays if Beal is out, or in Goodwin's case, he goes from like 15 to 25 minutes. Unless there's a prop on someone weird like that, there's no real, So if Beal is in, Washington looks good. If not, then nothing.
All right, let's move on to the Southeast Divisional clash
Yeah.
between the Heat and
We
the
already
Hawks.
we already did cover this one, but we can
Oh,
cover it
sorry.
again. No, I think
All right.
this one is also important
I'm
for
so excited to see a divisional matchup like
Yeah.
that matters.
it does matter for divisional betting. I do think we have something here. Like I think there's value on whichever team wins this game for the division.
Sure.
But it's not much. So with that, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm just gonna like quickly refer to the odds. The Heat are like minus 250 and the Hawks are like plus 250. I don't really think the Wizards are have much divisional chance right now. They're like 3 games back of Atlanta, who is 3 games back of Miami. They're 6 games out, and the Wizards are definitely worse than these other 2 teams. So like even at 10-1, I'm not really looking at Washington. But if Miami wins this game, that puts them like 4 games ahead of Atlanta, and at minus 2 something, especially because it pushes Atlanta closer to selling at the deadline if they were to lose like a key divisional game. I think there's some potential value on the Heat. But at minus 250, like if it should be minus 400, it's a lot of EV. But for a future bet, like
Locking up a lot for a long period of time.
Yeah, so it's not super exciting. But if the Hawks win, I think I'm more interested. So I did see some Hawks lines like getting up to the 300 range, like 280, 290. I think if they win today, those are good. Like they would be closer to like 40% if they win today, I think.
Okay.
So if you can get, let's just check Bet Rivers because that's the
safest place to check one spot.
Yeah, and also because they're the site that's the most likely to not change the line after the game is over.
Yeah.
Do one of you guys have it? I'm trying to pull it up, but it's.
I was trying to get to it as well.
Okay, I have it. I have it now.
Yeah.
Plus 220 there. I think there are sites that have it higher, but I don't know if they'll keep the lines available. After the game starts. FanDuel has. Where are we? It's the same. Okay. Yeah, I mean 220 is like on the fringe of plus EV, I think, if they win. It would be like a little bit good. Yeah, I think you can find better though. So if you see something in the neighborhood of 250 to 300 and then they win, bet that. Like I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, we've talked about this before about who's buyers and who's sellers. So that the whole John Collins, who's been on the market for seems like 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's more talk in the last couple of days about him getting moved. I just I don't know what that gets them in return. I don't know if that means they're not really fire sailing, but I think they've just kind of decided at this point they want to.
I was reading the reporters there. It feels like Collins and Trey don't like each other, is what I'm reading.
Yeah, trading Collins is not about a rebuild or a fire sale. It's just like a better fit for the team than Collins. They just want to retool. Like the Utah-Atlanta trade that we've like talked about as a potential thing, whether it involves Murray and Clarkson or not, but a trade that involves like, let's just call it Beasley and Vanderbilt for Collins. That's the rumor.
Yeah.
That is a lateral trade for both teams, but it fills a need for both teams. Like it's a trade that 2 teams that are trying to make the playoffs this year would make.
Yeah, Utah's too deep. They need a 2-for-1. They need a lateral move where you trade 2 assets for 1 because they're too deep.
Right, and Collins is the best player in the deal, but he's only a little bit better than Vanderbilt and Beasley. But Utah's that's a good point. Like any deal where Utah can take 2 kind of good players and get a better player is a huge win for them. And Atlanta on the other side is lacking in depth.
Yep.
So like that trade, that should have happened already. But yeah, the Hawks can definitely still make the playoffs if they make that swap. They don't have to play. They don't have to play Derek Favors
Murray's a lot better
if they
than
make
Clarkson,
that trade.
right?
Murray is a little better than Clarkson.
Okay. I would have gone a little more there, but
Clarkson is a better scorer by like a good amount, but Murray's defense is quite a bit better. Yeah. I think they're similar. I think they're similar passing. Clarkson is a much better shooter, and I think that's why his offensive rating is a little bit higher. I'll just check it very quickly. Then we'll move on to the next game. Clarkson has a 1.4 overall player rating. I think Murray is going to grade a bit better, but he's 2.8 on offense, negative 1.9 on defense.
I thought Murray was like a pretty relevant defender.
Yeah, Murray's only a
That's-
1.2 offensively, so it's a lot worse, but he's a positive on defense. So Murray's player rating is 2.2, Clarkson is 1.4. Yeah. He's better he's better, but Clarkson is a much better offensive player.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Utah, Minnesota looks like no
good segue
value.
right to the team we were just talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this game is
transition.
we're now going to get to our 3 games here where we have no
Who
idea
knows?
what's going to happen, but we could have value. So I'm going to do a quick summary of it, and then we'll talk about them individually, just in
All right.
case something breaks right now. We have Markkanen and Gobert, both questionable. I think Anthony Edwards, who's over to the side, is fake questionable. I don't buy this anymore. He's played with the
He's
same
been questionable
questionable
for a long time now.
Yeah, it's like 5 games in a row with the same Q tag he's been playing. I almost wasn't going to list him at all, even though he's on the injury report. Like, he's playing through a hip injury and a shoulder injury. He's just going to play, though. And especially in this game that matters so much for the standings.
I think I read a quote from a teammate that said they've been like really proud of how hard he's been playing through this injury or something.
Yeah, I
weird
saw
like
that.
So it's like it's definitely a thing, but like he's probably just playing through it.
And I've dinged Minnesota for manual adjustments each of their last 3 games by half a point because of Anthony Edwards playing hurt. So that's all here. And then just quickly before we go into this game deeper, we have Morant questionable. So, we'll have a Grizzlies bet maybe, but we have to wait on him. And then we have a LeBron potential rest game, which is like probably the most important update today, but it's all the way at the end. Like the Lakers don't play just the way the schedule is set up today. All of the games are between 1 and 6 Eastern, and then there's a football game on, and then the Lakers play after the football game. That's the way that like the sports have coordinated their schedule today. So the Lakers are not playing until 10:30 tonight.
They have a 4.5 hour difference between the previous game.
Yeah, so we're not going to get LeBron news now. We may get it at like 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., but we're not going to get it now. So we can do that one last. That's why, even though it's super impactful, we're saving it. So Utah, Minnesota,
DeRozan in.
Yeah, that's not today. It's okay.
Oh, Thursday. Shit.
Yeah. That's really weird. We're getting an update about Thursday. It's Monday.
Come on.
Yeah, that's just not supposed to happen. Just don't tell us. We don't care right now.
Mike was so proud he had breaking news 4 days away.
I got it. There were still seconds in the timer column. I was proud of myself.
Yeah, you broke it. I don't even.
All right, sorry for the distraction. So,
what combination of things could result in a bet in the Utah game?
Basically, we need the news to break disproportionately. So, if both guys are in, we have nothing. And we're not going to have totals either. Derek White was probable. He's available. That doesn't matter either. So, for this game, the problem with Markkanen and Gobert is they are conflicting effects on the game. They're also conflicting effects on the total. So, if they're both in, like Gobert is good for defense, Markkanen's good for offense. Gobert is good for Minnesota. Markkanen is obviously good for Utah. If both players play, it cancels out completely, both on the spread and the total. Maybe not like exactly 1-for-1. Gobert's impact is a bit higher, but it cancels out enough where we wouldn't have a bet on anything. And the same is true if both are out.
However, what if they're staggered?
Yeah, we need one guy to play and one guy not to play. And then we have a bet in the directions of those two things. So,
do you think you're playing the total also here?
If we can time it, like.
Yeah, you're going to get that news separately, most likely.
Yeah.
So there's probably going to be a few minutes where the line's going to adjust in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the market is priced where it would be for both in and both out, roughly, because it's a midpoint for both players.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
So, yeah, if we get Gobert out, what you can do is bet Utah in the over, and then if Markkanen is also out, you can just hedge it. And then this is one that's going to take some attentiveness because you're going to need to be able to hedge it back. So then if we get Markkanen ruled out, you bet Minnesota and the under, but then if Gobert were to also get ruled out, you don't want those anymore. You want to hedge off of them. So I would react to the first guy if it's something definitive, but then you have to react again to the second guy. Yeah. I think...
And that might be doubling down on the same side, right? Like, what if it goes
right? No, that's
If it's Markkanen in and we go Utah and over, and then Gobert out afterwards, then we're probably going to go Utah and over again, right?
Yeah, Yeah, so I would.
We could have two separate bets that both beat the closing line in different ways, theoretically.
So maybe you go like half units and then you try to go to full units, and same for the other direction. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good strategy for it. So
obviously, if Edwards is also out, I don't know if I'm going to change my total approach with Edwards out. But
Edwards definitely helps point scoring. Like, he's not much of a defender. He's a really good offensive player.
Is he enough to adjust the total though?
On his own, no, but he definitely matters towards the like Gobert in Edwards.
I'm treating Edwards as only affecting the Utah spread.
I think if Gobert were to be in, that helps the under, and if Edwards were to be out, that helps the under more. It does.
Fair.
I think it would push it more. And
would you be adding more then? Hey, let's say,
yeah.
Well, most likely they're going to come at the same time.
I mean, most likely Edwards is playing. Like, I'm 95.
Yeah.
I'm 95% sure Edwards is playing today. Gobert missed the entire second half of their previous game.
Yeah, I think.
And it was against Donovan Mitchell, and he still didn't play the second half. I don't know if that like helps or hurts.
Do they hate
case.
each other? I wasn't sure if that was.
They hated each other in Utah when they were together.
Oh, they did. Okay,
but I don't know if they care
that's
anymore.
A thing to me.
Yeah, I don't know if they care anymore, and I don't
Fair.
know how much they actually like. If there were, if the media overemphasized that issue and it really wasn't a big deal. I don't really know, but there's something. And yeah, so Gobert got injured in the second quarter of last game and missed the whole second half. I don't have a really good idea of what his status is for today. Markkanen, though, my gut is Markkanen plays. He sat the second leg of a back-to-back with a hip injury, and you could argue it was just a rest game. So if I had to say right now, I think both guys are closer to probable, but I don't, like, it's not a lot of confidence. Like, I'm going 60-40 both play.
I think Gobert is much less likely to play than Markkanen. Gobert hurt himself in the last game and wasn't able to finish it.
Yeah, that's fair. Although for him too, it was the second leg of a back-to-back. So like he might have just been so tired at that point. They were just like, don't push it. It's okay. I don't know.
Can't rule it out.
But I think you're right. Like it could be 70-30 for Markkanen or 80-20, and Gobert is more like 60-40.
Fair.
Yeah. They're both, but I do think they're both north of 50%. But still, you can't do anything yet because they're both so important on each side. We do have to wait.
Yeah, there's too much in different directions being pulled here to do anything right now. But if we can react, we're definitely going to try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely, this is a first time to say keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account because Matt will try to keep us updated. But if you're watching yourself, I mean, as I'm listening here, obviously there's a lot of things that could happen, but certainly one of the range of outcomes here is Markkanen in, Edwards in, Gobert out. And if that's the case, then we have a good Jazz spread bet and we have a really solid over.
Yeah, I think the total in that case, so right now it's 234.5. I think we see like 239 as the closing total, which is still, that's a 4.5 point edge. But again, that's one unit because total, I'm going to stick to this rule of thumb as
4.5 to 3.
4.5 to 3, 1.5 to 1. A total point is 50% less valuable than a spread point. So you need 4.5
for a 1 unit.
Or sorry, roughly. It's a spread point is 1.5 or 50% more valuable than a total point. Yeah, that's the way to say it. Yeah, so 1.5x.
Is there a Utah team total if Markkanen bet? If Markkanen's in and Gobert's out? Yeah,
that could be the way. Like, if you only could make one bet, I might even just choose that over either. But I'm going to try to bet all three things for sure. If we get that combination and the numbers haven't changed, I would go for all three of those.
So I agree the team total could be in play for Markkanen. I do not necessarily see the team total in play for Gobert. Do you disagree with that?
Wait, say that again. I was just checking YouTube chat.
I do agree that Markkanen in, I would be interested in Utah team total over. For Gobert out, I don't want to touch the team totals. I'm more interested in the game under.
Yeah, right, because Gobert is bad on offense. Right.
Yeah, Gobert in is like under for both teams, I guess, but I wouldn't want to touch the team totals. If he's out, I still wouldn't want to touch the team totals. I just think he has a global effect on the game.
Right, because
both teams.
Markkanen is boosting Utah's offense. He's like neutral on defense. Gobert boosts Minnesota's defense, but he hurts their offense.
Yep.
So he's a little bit of a different player. Yeah.
So maybe Edwards could be played for the team total if you want to go there.
Sure. I just don't think it's worth spending much time on him because I think he's playing. But Gobert has a much larger total impact than Markkanen does.
I agree with that.
Yeah. The question from YouTube was, what site are we using for this odd screen? That's unabated. Yeah,
Yes.
these guys are great. So, and we do actually, good timing to show it. I think, is that going to be right for that FanDuel line? Sometimes it glitches for like a second and then, okay, never mind. FanDuel just moved to 9 on the Pacers game. So that 10 we were looking at isn't there anymore. But still, if Miles Turner is playing, 9.5 is fine. Okay. Is that everything for Minnesota, Utah, or
I
move
think
on?
that's everything for Minnesota, Utah.
Yeah, let's move on to the Memphis Phoenix game. What are
Okay.
we looking at there? I guess Morant obviously is.
How likely is Ja to play, do you think?
I think with the large spread and him being, we're about to get an update on Cody Martin for Charlotte. We can disregard this one
Okay.
because he's not important enough to whatever. I think Morant was listed questionable last night for this game. Phoenix is missing like all their good players still. I think I'm just checking when Memphis plays next. They have a game in 2 days, home against Cleveland. I mean, not a conference game, but like Morant can sit this one and the team can win. I think they know that. So I think he's closer to out, but I don't really know. We could wind up with a Suns bet here too, because the compounding between Morant and John Konchar, who is also questionable, like Konchar doesn't really matter, but if you take him out in addition to Morant, then it's David Roddy time. Our favorite guy to talk about now, because Memphis is really deep, but they run out of depth at a certain point.
That guy looks like Robert Tractor Trailer on the court, right? Is that the guy I'm thinking of?
I don't know. He is not that big.
They have a G League guy that looks like a monster out there, and he just runs kind of like the Michelin Man.
Is that Kenneth Lofton and not David Roddy?
It might be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not Roddy. It's not Roddy.
Okay.
I'm still here for the David Roddy defense fund. So,
I'm not saying he's never going to be good, but he's bad now.
Yep.
He's a rookie.
Got it. I'll agree with you. He's a rookie.
So
All right,
if
wait, Matt, I got something here. So if Jaw's out, Konchar's out.
Yeah.
You think it's more than 4.5 point movement?
Yeah, I think it's like 5.5. Yeah. But that's still, it doesn't give us much on Phoenix. It just gives us a little bit.
That's only going to get us to like 8.5 with the current line of 10.5. That's like a half unit bet.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just clarifying that, because it's like when I hear Morant out, usually that's a large bet.
Well,
This seems like a
the line
small
opened at 12.5 and it's already moved to 10.5 because he got downgraded.
But Morant in, we got a bet on Memphis.
Right. It already has dropped 2 points because he was downgraded yesterday. The line was 12.5 before we got that update. So that's why it's not so much of it. Like, it's a pretty small value now if he's out, because we already have it priced in at like halfway.
And I'm sure you have your manual adjustments for blowouts and backdoors and all that. All right. So
this is whenever we're dealing with
free.
compounding and blowout adjustments at the same time, though, I can't estimate it as precisely because like our numbers are binary and there's a lot of if-then scenarios around these two players.
No, I
so
totally get that.
It's just an estimate. But if the players in question play, we do have a Memphis bet, yeah. And if they're both out, we're gonna have a small Phoenix bet.
Yeah, I think that's the recap here. Morant and Konchar in, you've got a solid bet on Memphis. If they're both out, you've got a half unit bet on Phoenix.
Right, and if just Morant is out, I mean, I think we can look at the game total, but it's already also come down a bit.
Got it.
I think I may be wrong about that because Chris Paul got rolled out yesterday, and that kind of complicates things. My lean would be under if just Ja is out, but I don't feel strongly enough to like actually recommend that.
Got it.
So I think
let's move on to the game that's 11 hours from now.
Yep.
Whereas all the other games are right around the corner. Lakers, Houston. So waiting on LeBron news.
We're waiting on news of 4 players, and this is a really weird game. So first, what I want to do before we talk about this one is relog into sportsbooks and call out the Twitter accounts we're following, because we've covered everything now. We may need to react. Like Van Vliet could get rolled out in 3 minutes. Like
the 11:30 timeline is going to be pretty important today.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and we don't know which game is going to have news first, but it could be something. So I'm just preparing. We're going to want Wolves PR on for today for sure. That's our go-to Minnesota Timberwolves.
There we go. We get the dinner updates too, just in case.
I will not be tweeting that joke anymore, but we will make it here every single time.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah. I don't want to bother anyone with push notifications about it, but we will say it here for sure.
Post game pizza for the win.
It's a 4 p.m. game. They're going to be eating post game pizza pretty early today. I wonder if the afternoon start messes with their their meal plan.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it could. So okay, Wolves PR. I think that is probably the one main Twitter account to care about. Obviously, like any beat writer can help, but I'll try to tweet out other stuff. Like if we get Utah shoot around, I don't have like a key Utah person, but if I see it, I'll tweet that. Okay, so Wolves PR literally have push notifications on right now to see if we get a status update on Rudy Gobert or Anthony Edwards. Anything else before we talk about this Lakers game, or you think that is all?
Let's talk Lakers. Let's talk Lakers Rockets.
You want to try to wrap it up in 2 minutes?
We can
go a little longer.
Do you have a hard stop? Because I can do it quickly if we need to.
Just let's roll right into it. What do you got?
So this line is basically fair right now. We're projecting 5. The line is 5.5. We have 4 players that we are unsure about. LeBron is possible rest. He's not on the injury report right now. Beverly missed yesterday, so he is like functionally questionable. I don't think they've told us for sure, but I think it's fair to call him questionable right now because he's been out with an illness for the last couple games. Kevin Porter Jr. is the same thing. They played yesterday. He was out. We don't know if he's going to play. And then Eric Gordon sometimes will sit on the second leg of a back-to-back. And Eric Gordon is really bad. So the estimate on Eric Gordon is a -1 impact. Like the team is 1 point better if he's out. He has a -3.9 player rating, and they actually start him. And Garrison Matthews, who comes off the bench and usually doesn't play very much, has a +2 something player rating. He's by far the best player on the team. And the Rockets are tanking. Like that's why they do this. So LeBron is by far the most impactful here, but there are ways for us to get a bet even if LeBron plays. Like if Gordon is out and Beverly is out, that is a 2.5 point swing in favor of Houston. Because Gordon being out would help the Rockets by 1, and Beverly being out would hurt the Lakers by 1.5.
And the Gordon one is probably where the market sees it the opposite, right? So
yeah, I think the market will not react to him.
Yeah.
I don't think opposite, but I think the market is not going to think what we're thinking. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
We don't have to move as quickly as we usually do when the news breaks because we know that Houston gets better if Gordon's out, but the line's not going to move that quick.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like if we just got Eric Gordon ruled out right now, the line could move to 6. Like it actually could move a half point in the Lakers' direction. It will not go the other way. I think you're right. He's a name. Like people will just react very quickly, and then it'll probably come back, but it won't. Yeah, you don't have to time Eric Gordon because any negative player like that is not. That the market doesn't do that. They just don't.
Yeah, the market doesn't go the opposite way when news happens. If anything, is going to stay still.
Yeah. So yeah, that one it can be a bonus later, but we don't have to time that. Really, it's like the key thing is if we get LeBron downgraded, the thing I'll caution against is if LeBron is listed questionable, don't react too strongly to that because LeBron very often will play with a questionable tag. The only stretch where he wasn't was when he had the non-COVID illness like 2 weeks ago. An illness is a different thing. But if LeBron is questionable, I mean, it definitely reduces his chance to play, but it's not like when we get, SGA downgraded to questionable and like, why would they play him if he's playing hurt? LeBron will play hurt. He's been playing hurt for most of this season. So, and the Lakers can't tank because they don't have their draft pick. Like they're trying to win at all costs because they have no other option. But if LeBron is actually ruled out for rest, then we have a huge value on the Rockets. Yeah.
Got it.
And then even if Kevin Porter Jr. were to get ruled out, he is pretty important. He's a positively rated player on a team where the bench is really bad. So like 1.5 points from Porter is relevant, but LeBron is obviously way more relevant.
Got it.
Yep.
All right. So on this one, so if everybody's in, there's no bet. If LeBron's out, then there's Houston value, and if Porter's in, you get a little more Houston value, and if Gordon's out, you get a little more Houston value.
Yeah.
So definitely one to keep an eye on. keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account.
Mhm.
Anything else relevant here?
Yeah, I think team total is also relevant. Game total is potentially relevant. LeBron at this point in his career, his impact is all on the offensive end.
Yep.
Like LeBron drives the pace to a significant degree, and his defensive effort, I'll call it some effort, some athleticism.
Yeah.
Regular season LeBron against the Houston Rockets is not a good defensive player.
Not an elite defender. We'll just
No,
say.
it's because
there was a great clip. It wasn't from last night's game. I think it was the one before. But LeBron basically let a guy have a layup. Like could have done something to try to stop him, but basically just decided to do nothing, and then turned around and yelled at Troy Brown for playing bad D. So all in one clip. So that's a fun one to look up.
Okay.
All right.
So
I got
okay,
one
so
more
yeah,
thing
just
before we close.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I shot this into our Discord yesterday. I would just like to be on the record of saying I took the New York Liberty plus 1,000 yesterday. They made a trade to acquire Jonquel Jones from the Connecticut Suns, an elite player in the league, a 2021 MVP of the league. And there's a huge trade rumor, a huge free agency rumor with Breanna Stewart is interested in the New York Liberty. So their odds have gone down to 750 at the only place I can find it. But if they
It's
sign
not
Breanna
available in most
Stewart,
places. Yeah.
if they sign Breanna Stewart, this plus 750 is going to be like plus 150 or plus 200. So this is literally like
You're saying a WNBA team can be plus 150 to win the championship before the season starts? Is that
do you know how many teams are in the league?
like 8? Is that the number?
It's 12, but like
Okay.
there is a team that's plus 150 right now, the Las Vegas
Okay.
Aces. And they are definitely the favorites right now, but they have probably the second best player in the league. And the Liberty just got like a top 5, and they're considering getting like the number 1. So if that happens, it's going to be a massive line movement. Do with that info what you wish.
Okay. They might be able to beat the Knicks no, the Knicks are good now, so not anymore.
All right. So there
Yeah,
you go.
if you want to tweet it out, like
They
yeah,
could
I don't
not
have
be
an
your
opinion
high school
on
team still probably, but
I don't have an opinion on this, but if a line is going to move from 750 to 150, I don't care what it is, I'll bet it. So if that actually happens, let us know.
It went from 1,000 to 750 on
Yeah.
one piece of news, and I am telling you, there's a potential even larger impact where it's like 2 top 5 players in the league are going to go from other teams to the worst team in the league, and their lines are just going to keep moving back.
Okay.
So
12 teams is not a lot of teams. It's true. I do want to say one more thing about the Laker game, unless you have more on this.
No, I'm
No,
not.
I'm just gonna call it. You get everything on this show. Fanboy Locky, WNBA fanboy Locky, giving us the lowdown. All right, what else you got for the Lakers?
Okay,
I'm in that bet, Locky. So I'm all in. So
Look, I just wanted to be on the air. I want to be on the record of saying it. That's all.
I understand.
All right, fair enough.
We got to plant our flags for future clips.
Mhm.
All right, Matt. What's the last thing for the Lakers game?
Okay, so yeah, like LeBron in a playoff series is going to play good defense. And this LeBron is not playing good defense in a regular season game versus Houston. So LeBron getting ruled out, I'm definitely looking at game total under, Lakers team total under. LeBron and Kevin Porter both out, I think is really good for the game total under. And then Eric Gordon being out is really good for the game total under because he is like the worst defender. He doesn't care. And he is okay at offense. Like he can score a little bit. And then Patrick Beverley does have the opposite effect. So to summarize these 4 players, LeBron is by far the best of them, but his impact is all offense. Kevin Porter basically also is like mostly offense. Eric Gordon, same thing. Beverley, though, is the opposite. So the perfect storm for the under is the only one of these players that plays is Patrick Beverley. The other 3 get ruled out. And I think in that case, the game total would go from like 236 to like 228. Like, and it would drop a lot. So there's a lot that can happen with this one. But the market is going to react very quickly to LeBron and maybe to Porter. It will not react much to the other 2 guys.
I agree.
So we have time. We have time on those 2. Porter and LeBron, though, you're going to have to be quick.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Lots of potential moving pieces here. We got games starting in about 90 minutes. So keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. We will be back tomorrow at regular 10:15-ish time. Anything else, guys?
Hopefully
right,
the Jazz win. We kind of need this one for our futures. That's
yeah. That future's bet needs a little help. All right.
Yeah.
Good luck.